builds are very strong this season, and honestly, I think this is probably the best hunter build in the game right now. This build performs extremely well from normal content all the way to in-game content, and you can use it pretty much everywhere in the game. As a warlock main, it is by far the most fun I have ever had playing on a hunter, and with this season specifically, it helps the playstyle out even more. This build is going to give you infinite grenade energy, infinite volatile rounds, and a damage boost that will last 24/7. On top of all that, you're going to be unkillable because you will be healing all the time. There's not much this build can't do, and that is why I'm deeming it as the best hunter build of season 20. But hey, are you in the market for a brand new gaming PC? Well, look no further than my custom line to Apex gaming PCs. All of these are price optimized to run Destiny 2 at a great performance, and you can completely customize it the way you want to if you would like to swap anything out. All the links that you'll need are in the description of this video, and remember that you can save up to $250 when you use code REST at checkout. If any of you noticed the yellow spot on my glasses and were curious about what it was, it's just some tape. My glasses decided to randomly break last night, which was just amazing, so this is my way of currently fixing it for now until I can get another pair. But regardless of that, let's first jump into our exotic, the Gerfalcon's Halberd. This is going to have the exotic trait See Me Feel Me. Your void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. When you are invisible and defeat a combatant while using a finisher, all your weapons gain bonus damage. You and your nearby allies get a reserve overshield and improve class ability regeneration. These reserve overshields can be deployed by using a class ability. Now that the paragraph of an exotic is over, this has one really standout trait, and it has another trait that is also plays really well into the build, but you're mainly going to be using it for just proccing volatile rounds. So essentially, when you come out of invisibility, you will just always have volatile rounds procced. This can be reprocced all the time, so every time you go invisible and come out of it, you will reproc your volatile rounds. That is going to be extremely important with one of our aspects. More on that later. Now, the other part of this is when you're invisible and get a finisher, you're going to grant yourself a weapon damage bonus alongside giving you and your teammates increased class ability regeneration and reserved overshields that will activate when you use your class ability. So the second part is very nice for keeping your team up so they can have overshields once they use their class ability, but in reality, the main reason you are using this exotic is to constantly reproc volatile rounds over and over again. But however, it is nice to know exactly how all of the exotic works, because if it ever is a situation where you need to use the second part of it, it is there and you can definitely take advantage of it. Now, the way we're going to get Gerfalcon's Halberd to proc a lot is with our aspects, and that is going to be Vanishing Step and Stylus Executioner. Vanishing Step is really simple. It just says dodge and it makes you invisible. It is really easy to understand. You can just hit your dodge and you go invisible. Again, coming out of that invisibility will let you proc volatile rounds, and you can also use that as a way to get a consistent proc of the second perk, as you can go invisible and then go up and finish an enemy that is weak and get all the other good bonuses this exotic has to offer. And the other way we're going to be using Stylus Executioner. So defeat a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target, grants invisibility and true sight. After performing a Stylus Execution, your next melee attack while invisible weakens targets. So this aspect right here is what makes this build extremely strong. Every single time you kill a target with one of those verbs on them, you'll go invisible. It does have the other benefit where you can melee an invisible enemy after proccing a Stylus Executioner will weaken them, but that's not really needed as much, but it is handy to keep that in mind. The main thing is since you are defeating volatile targets, you'll go invisible, and since your weapons are going to be making volatile rounds, every single time you get a kill, you will just go back invisible, which will then reproc Gerfalcon's Halberd, and you can just have this infinite chain of volatile rounds, and there's never a time where you are ever going to run out of them. It is extremely strong, and it is a must-have aspect in my opinion. Now, before we jump into other stuff on the subclass, I want to talk about weapons really quick, because the main thing you really need to run is just any void weapon that's currently in the meta. I know a lot of people do like to run Wave Splitter. That is a very good option if you want to take that, but I personally have just been enjoying running Leviathan's Breath and just having a funnel web equipped. Anything will work. I just want you all to know, just make sure you have a void weapon. Even if you want to play into the artifact mods for champion mods, I personally like to run Riptide because this does have Choke Clip on it, so you can stun Overload and Unstoppables. If you want to run a void anti-barrier weapon, that could also be good, but a thing to note that volatile rounds also is anti-barrier, so with the void weapon and a Riptide, you pretty much have access to every single champion mod, and you never really have to swap any of this out because match game is not in the game now. So that is really good. So just find a void weapon that you like a lot. It could be a trace rifle, auto rifle, hand cannon, SMG, anything. And obviously, if you need to swap out for whatever DPS, make sure it is a void weapon. Something like Red Herring is a good option for rockets because it is a void rocket. Just do the best you can to make sure they are going to be void damage. Now jumping back into the subclass, the grenade I like to run for this is the Vortex Grenade. Out of all these grenades, this is probably just the best for general ad clear. It also does have that ability to pull enemies in, which is nice. And you're going to be able to have a lot of these, so you can kind of just throw them whenever you need them and just kill a bunch of ads. Now, the Snare Bomb you can't change out, but I do want to make it aware because I see a lot of hunters that don't use this properly. This can apply a weaken effect. So if you're on a boss and you don't have a tether or a grenade with some of our other fragments, you can throw this melee to actually apply the weaken effect to enemies, and you can do a lot more damage to them. This is extremely strong just to have it in your back pocket for champions or just any other major target that needs to go down, so definitely just be aware of that. And I personally like to run Marksman Dodge with this because it does reload my weapon. Taking Gambler's Dodge could be good if you want to have another Snare Bomb, but Marksman Dodge does have the lower cooldown, which helps you proc Fantasy Step a lot more often, so that is why I choose to go with that one. And then for your super, I go with Deadfall. Deadfall is extremely strong right now. It has really good potential for extra damage and ad clear. It basically makes your tether have increased range, it lasts longer, and you pretty much always want to use this for just major ad clear if there are a lot of champions in the area or just boss damage in general. It will apply a 30% debuff, which is one of the highest debuffs in the entire game. It is very good. Now move on to fragments. This is where the build changes up a little bit, and that is because we're going to be running Echo of Cessation. So Finisher Final Blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby combatants to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a void breach. So honestly, this is one of my favorite void fragments in the game right now. Getting that finisher to make everyone volatile is extremely strong, and also the fact that defeating volatile targets now will grant void breaches. Void breaches, when picked up, will grant you class ability energy, and they are essentially the same things as like fire sprites or stasis shards. And obviously with the finisher aspect of this fragment, it will pair well with the second part of Gerfalcon's Halberd, so you can get all your defensive capabilities alongside that weapon damage bonus, and everything will be volatile. So it is very good. The main reason you are using it is for void breaches, but do not sleep on the finisher part because I think that is honestly really strong. Now for my next fragment, I am running Echo of Remnant. So your Linger Grenade effects, Vortex Grenade, Void Wall, Void Spike, and Axiom Bolt have increased duration. So since I'm running Vortex Grenade, it's pretty much a no-brainer to run this to make it last a little bit longer. It will do a little bit more damage. If you want to run anything else, say something like a Suppression Grenade, you can definitely swap this fragment out for whatever else you want to, but I like running this one specifically because I'm also going to be running Echo of Undermining, so your Void Grenades weaken targets. So this means now you'll apply a longer weaken effect with your Vortex Grenade, and that's going to relate for more boss DPS if you don't have a tether, and just easier ad clear with the grenade on its own. I pretty much would always run Echo of Undermining no matter what grenades you want to take, but again, if you want to swap Vortex out for anything else, you can definitely swap Echo of Remnants out for literally anything that you want to choose from. And then finally, Echo of Starvation. So picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour. So Devour, if you don't know what that is, you're going to heal to full and get grenade energy every time you get a kill. It is extremely strong for survivability, and since we're going to be having a bunch of grenades, that is why I like to play into my Vortex Grenade with these two fragments, just do a little bit more ad clear to help further play into Devour. We all know how abundant Orbs of Power are now in the game, but the fact that Void Breaches will also proc this means that Echo of Cessation will also play a part into that fragment, because picking up these Void Breaches are now not only going to grant you class ability energy to proc Vanishing Step, but you're also going to be proccing Devour, which again in return will give you infinite health and your grenades to constantly proc your other two fragments. It is really synergistic, and it is very strong. Now stat distribution, I would always go with 100 resilience in pretty much every single build to get that 30% damage reduction, and I'm going with 100 discipline specifically so I can throw my grenade a lot more often. If you want to go with 100 mobility, that's probably the next stat I would prioritize, so you could do your Vanishing Step as much as possible. But with Stylus Executioner, you don't really have to proc it that much because this will constantly make you invisible over and over again, and you can kind of use this more as a backup to proc it just in case Stylus Executioner goes away. So you don't really have to have that much mobility, but if you just want to reload a lot more often or have more melees, if you're running Gambler's Dodge, this is definitely the next stat I would prioritize. And then obviously Recovery also is a great option as well. Now artifact mods is where this build plays really well into this season. You don't have to have these mods, so when next season comes around, it's still going to be really good. But with things like Volatile Flow being in the artifact, so when you pick up an Orb Power, you're granted volatile rounds. This just means now you're going to be granted Devour and volatile rounds when you pick up an orb, and this just helps keep up the flow of Gerfalcons. You don't really have to run it. Again, these mods kind of just make it easy to keep the playstyle up, more so than make it actually the playstyle. So again, Volatile Flow just makes it really easy, and it makes it literally lets you have volatile rounds 24/7 is very, very good. Shatter orbs is also really good because there are a lot of void shields in the current season, so you're going to be making orbs power everywhere, which again will get you your super energy and proc devour and volatile flow. Bricks for Beyond is also really good because you're going to be using void weapons all the time with this build, so you're going to just spawn a bunch of heavy ammo for you and your teammates. Very, very nice. On top of that, things like Prismatic Transfer is really good because when you cast your super, everybody that's not matching your subclass will get a damage bonus. So this just means now you pop Tether. If no one is running Void, they're going to have the debuff of Tether, but also you're going to be granting them a 20% damage increase for 10 seconds, which is very, very strong. And then other artifact mods I would definitely recommend is Authorized Mods, Grenades, and Void. This will just reduce the cost of your Void and grenade-based mods, which is going to be a huge part of the build. And since you have things like Overload Auto SMG in the current season, that just makes things like Funnel Web really good because it can stun Overload champions as well. And with volatile rounds, it will also do anti-barrier. Now, obviously, each season these will swap out, but you can definitely just be sure to take whatever champion mod you want to for whatever Void weapon that you will be running. But again, all these are just kind of to help out with the build. There's nothing that really makes it or breaks it. None of these really make the build work, kind of how something like Rain of Firebolts really plays into Fireball Grenades, and if you're making a Fireball build, you really have to run this. With this build specifically, it's kind of just the cherry on top, and if you want to take Void Weapon Channeling, you can, but with some of our other mods, you're never going to need this, and I honestly just don't really think this mod is that strong in my opinion. But let's jump over into mods, and if you all want to see a infographic on everything I am running with this build, be sure to head over to Mobalytics. I will link everything down below, and you can find an in-depth description of how this build works. If you want to watch that while I go along with everything, definitely be sure to check it out. So starting off with our helmet, we're going to be running a Void Siphon. So when we get rapid Void Weapon Final Blows, we'll make an Orb of Power. Obviously, we've already went over how orbs are going to be very strong with this build. This is now just going to give us another way to make them, and also picking up orbs will get you armor charge, which is going to play really heavily into some of our other mods. Now, also I'm running double Ashes to Asset, so we gain bonus super energy on grenade kills. Since we're going to have a bunch of grenades, our Vortex Grenade is going to just feed us a bunch of super energy, which again, our super is one of the strongest in the game in my opinion, because it can just act clear like crazy and is a very, very strong debuff. Now on our arms, I'm going to be running a Void Loader, so obviously since we're running Void weapons, I want to reload my Void weapons as much as possible, so this will just let me do it a lot faster. Firepower, so I'm going to get a Grenade Final Blow. It will create an Orb of Power. Again, another way to make orbs. Since we're going to have a bunch of grenade energy, this just means now we're going to be getting fed our super energy alongside making orbs, and picking up those orbs will also grant you a little super energy, so they kind of go hand in hand together, but mainly again, picking up those orbs will grant Devour and Armor Charge. Now, Bolstering Detonation is one I like to take since I'm going to be throwing a lot of grenades, so whenever I deal damage with a grenade, I'll be granted class ability energy. This is just gonna be good so I can keep Vanishing Step up if I need it. You could definitely swap this out for pretty much anything you want to, but I really enjoy taking this and it helps out with the build a lot in my opinion. Now for your chest piece, pretty much always just run as many resistant mods as you want to. If you want to throw something like a charge up so you can get another armor charge stack, which is going to help out with the build a little bit, you don't really have to do that, but if you want to, that is something you can do. I would rather just run 3 resistant mods just so you can be as tanky as possible. Now for your boots, I'm running triple Void Weapon Surge. You don't really need to take advantage of anything else since you're already going to have constant invisibility anyway, and Devour is going to be proccing all your grenades, and on top of the grenade energy, it's also going to be healing you to full. So I like to just take advantage of 3 Void Weapon Surges. This will actually give you a 22% damage increase if you do have an armor charge. These do stack and they will count down. They have a 10-second countdown, so essentially when you have 3 armor charge stacks, you will just have a total of 30 seconds of 22% damage increase, which is really, really nice. And this is the main reason I don't like to run Void Weapon Channeling, because Void Weapon Channeling, if you have all your abilities, will give you pretty much the same damage increase as this, but you don't actually have to worry about keeping your abilities up, and you can use them all the time. And as another note, this will also stack with Wells, any other buffs in the game. It is just like Old Fontamite, and it is very, very strong because it lasts a whole lot longer. Now on our cloak, we're also going to be running a Bombers. This will just help get my grenade energy back a little bit. You can kind of take this out for whatever you want to, but I like to run a Proximity Ward, so this will give me a powerful overshield when I perform a finisher. Since finisher is going to make enemies volatile, and I also have Gryphocus Halberd playing into the finisher playstyle, this just means I can get a little bit more tanky when I try to do the finisher playstyle. But again, if you want to swap this out for pretty much anything else, you can do that. The only mod I would highly recommend is Time Dilation, so this will make my decay and armor charges last a little bit longer. So this will actually bump the 10-second countdown of Void Weapon Surge up to 15. So at 3, you will have a total of 45 seconds of a 22% damage increase, which is really, really strong. Now this goes back into this part where if you want to take charged up, you can have 4, so you will have a full minute. But in my opinion, with the amount of orbs that are being made, 45 seconds is way more than enough to constantly proc it. I mean, heck, 30 seconds is probably way more than enough, but just taking one of these just to make sure you always have that 15 seconds of increased time of this is definitely worth it in my opinion, and is definitely something I would recommend slotting in. So as a recap, you're going to go invisible, you're going to be granted volatile rounds, you're going to be making orbs with your gun and your grenades. Your grenade's going to give you a bunch of super energy. On top of that, you're going to have a 22% damage increase literally permanently all the time. You have your finisher playstyle. Proximity ward will also help out with that. You're going to be applying volatile to enemies if you are finishing the enemies. On top of that, killing volatile targets will make void breaches, which again will proc devour alongside orbs of power with the abundant amount of ways you have to make them. Your grenade is going to be really strong with Vortex Grenade and Echo of Remnants alongside Echo of Undermining. You have multiple ways to weaken bosses with Echo of Undermining, Snare Bomb, and your Tether will do the most. This is also really good for debuffs as well. You have so many ways to go invisible, Advantage Step, and Stylus Executioner, and you're pretty much unkillable because you will have 100 resilience and Devour constantly healing you all the time. And also when you're invisible, enemies tend to not shoot you, so you can constantly get healed, you go invisible, and you have 30% damage reduction with the 22% damage increase permanently. And I think you can kind of see how this build is wrapping up to be very, very strong. Oh, and on top of that, with Ad Clear, you have volatile rounds 24/7. It is just ridiculous. Now, if you were curious about the transmog I was running, I went for something super simple. Honestly, I just went for a purple look since I am playing into Void. I think it looks pretty clean. I didn't have really anything super in mind like I do with some of these. I kind of just threw it together, but I think it did turn out pretty okay. If you want to make your hunter look like that, these are the transmogs. But all right, that is going to do it all for me. Let me know what y'all think about the build in the comments below. Have you been running this build a lot? I know this build was already really strong before and just got even better with the season. And again, when the artifact mods go away, don't feel bad. This build will still be very, very good. Again, all the artifact mods are just little cherries on top to make the build just flow a little bit easier. Add a little extra benefit, but it is nothing too crazy, and you can still expect this build to be very, very strong even in season 21. But as always, if y'all did enjoy and learn anything new, consider subscribe and drop a like and turn those notifications on. Also, if you'd like to join my Discord or follow me on any of my socials, all of that will be linked in the description as well. But just know watching this video is way more than enough, and that every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.